In the heart of Rome, beneath the shadow of the ancient Vatican, there exists a gathering that few people ever see. It is a meeting surrounded by secrecy and mystery. The Conclave. Known for its ability to elect the leader of the Roman Catholic Church. The Pope. The conclave is one of the most significant and fascinating events in the world. Blending centuries-old traditions with modern politics. But how did the conclave come to be? And why is it so important? The term conclave comes from the Latin word clavum, meaning key. In the past, the doors to the meeting were locked, and the key was carefully guarded. This was done to ensure that no one could interfere with the election process. Today, the term still carries the weight of secrecy. And the Catholic cardinals, the high-ranking officials of the Church, gather in a private meeting to choose a new pope. The history of the conclave dates back to 1268. When the papal conclave was first established. Before this time, the election of the Pope was often influenced by political factions, money, and even force. During the Middle Ages, Italy was a collection of warring city-states, and the election of the Pope was often a political tool used by powerful families. It was not uncommon for elections to drag on for months or even years as factions fought to install a pope who would support their interests. The 1268 election marked a turning point in this chaotic process. The cardinals were locked in the Sistine Chapel and given only the most basic food and shelter while they debated and voted. The goal was to eliminate external interference and ensure that the election process was fair and conducted in secrecy. This was the first official conclave, and its creation was a direct response to the growing influence of external powers on the papacy. Over time, the process became more formalized. But the spirit of secrecy remained a cornerstone of the conclave. As the centuries passed, the conclave evolved. By the 16th century, the Vatican had become a symbol of both spiritual and political power. And the conclave became more organized. New rules were introduced to speed up the process and limit the influence of outside forces. The cardinals were allowed to vote by secret ballot, and the voting was conducted in rounds, with the number of votes needed to elect a pope gradually increasing. One of the most significant changes came in 1978. When Pope Paul VI introduced a reform that allowed for a simpler election process. This reform reduced the number of votes required for a papal election and allowed for speedier decisions. The election of Pope John Paul II later that year was the result of this reform. And his election marked a new chapter in the history of the conclave. So, how does the conclave work today? The process is highly structured. And the cardinals who are eligible to vote in the conclave must be under the age of 80. The cardinals are gathered from all around the world. And each of them is chosen for their significant service to the Church. The group of electors is often referred to as the College of Cardinals. They are responsible for electing a new pope. But their role does not end there. They also play a critical part in advising the pope and helping to guide the Church's direction. When the conclave begins, the cardinals enter the Sistine Chapel and take an oath of secrecy. No one is allowed to leave the chapel until the election is over. And no one can reveal the proceedings to the outside world. The votes are cast by each cardinal. And the ballots are burned. If no one receives the required majority, the smoke from the fire will be black, signaling to the world that a decision has not been made. If a pope is elected, the smoke will turn white, signaling the election of a new pope. The process of electing a pope can take several days. And sometimes it is even longer. There are different rounds of voting. And in each round, the cardinals carefully consider their choices. Some are looking for a pope who will continue the traditions of the Church, while others may seek someone who can reform the institution and tackle the challenges of the modern world. It is a process that requires careful consideration. As the Pope holds immense spiritual, political, and cultural power. The role of the Pope is both religious and political. As the head of the Roman Catholic Church, the Pope has the responsibility of guiding the spiritual life of over 1 billion Catholics worldwide. The Pope is the supreme authority on matters of doctrine, and his teachings are followed by millions. However, the Pope is also a head of state, leading the Vatican City, an independent city-state within the heart of Rome. The Vatican is an important center of politics and culture, with significant influence in international relations and diplomacy. Once a new pope is elected, the cardinals emerge from the Sistine Chapel, and the world waits for the announcement. The new pope then appears on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, where he is introduced to the world. This is a moment of great excitement, as millions of people from around the world gather to hear the announcement. The new pope's first words are often filled with humility. And he may take a moment to pray or bless the crowd. The election of a new pope is not only a religious event but also a political one. The pope's influence extends far beyond the walls of the Vatican. And his election is closely watched by leaders from around the world. The choice of pope often reflects the direction that the Catholic Church will take in the coming years. Will the pope focus on social justice? Advocate for the poor? Or address issues such as climate change and human rights? These are just a few of the issues that the pope may address during his papacy. The conclave is not just an election. It is a symbol of the unity and continuity of the Catholic Church. It represents the strength of an institution that has weathered centuries of change and challenges. The process is a reminder that the Church is not just a spiritual organization, but also a political entity with a unique position in the world. The mystery surrounding the conclave is part of what makes it so captivating. It is a secretive process. Yet it is also one that has the power to shape the course of history. The election of a pope is not just the decision of a few cardinals. It is a moment that reflects the values, beliefs, and hopes of millions of people worldwide. In the 21st century, the conclave continues to be a significant event, watched by people of all faiths and backgrounds. The election of a pope remains one of the few events in the world that combines religious ritual, political intrigue, and global attention. In a world where many decisions are made in public forums, the conclave remains a powerful reminder that some of the most important choices are still made behind closed doors. In a space where secrecy is paramount. Learning English through stories like the conclave is a great way to expand your vocabulary and improve your understanding of history. Culture, and global politics. By exploring fascinating events like the election of a pope, you will improve your language skills while discovering important aspects of world history. Vocabulary highlights. Conclave, a private meeting or assembly. Especially one that is secret. Papal, relating to the Pope or the Roman Catholic Church. Vatican, the headquarters of the Roman Catholic Church, and the official residence of the Pope. Cardinals, senior officials in the Roman Catholic Church who are responsible for electing the Pope. Sistine Chapel, a chapel in the Vatican where the Pope is elected during the conclave. Doctrine, a set of beliefs or principles held and taught by a religious or political group. Diplomacy, the practice of managing relationships between countries. Humility, the quality of being modest and respectful. Social justice, the concept of fair treatment and equality in society. Ritual, a religious or ceremonial act performed in a specific order.